We are back. A's Baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the hostess of the show is Nancy Finley.
Hello.
How are you, Nancy?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. You were talking off air with me about the eclipse and how you saw it and I didn't. I
was
guess
just
you
imagining.
saw it on TV, didn't you?
Yes, I was imagining how it would have looked in the ancient times at the Colosseum in Rome.
Right.
Back to the Colosseum.
Yeah, then it's not the Coliseum in Oakland is no longer the Coliseum. They call it now Rickey Henderson Field. And just off the top of my head, Rickey Henderson was the greatest position player the A's have ever had, obviously.
Yes.
What are your memories of Rickey?
Oh, my gosh. I remember Rickey when we had him in the late 70s, from 77, 78, 79, mostly at social functions. And he was just really down to earth. Just
yeah,
he
was Rickey. No pretenses.
No.
Pretty good guy. I'll tell you what I admire about him. He wasn't really known as a public speaker, not a great orator. And when he made the Hall of Fame, he was acutely aware of the fact that he would have an acceptance speech, and he did some homework. I don't know who he studied with.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I heard. He studied with Mr. Robinson of Laney College.
Okay.
Earl Robinson.
Earl, okay. Boy, you do have an incredible memory.
Well, I do because Mr. Robinson was a professor there when Dad was in the off season. Dad just could not tear himself away from education, so Dad taught business law there two nights a week.
Whoa. Is that how you met Morgan, through your dad and through that connect?
No, well, in a way, I met Morgan through columnist Marcy Bachman. She had a column called Frankly Female in the Oakland Tribune. And and Dad introduced us. She was in our press box. She was the only woman to cover the World Series. It was the 74 World Series. And in 75, we met in the press box, and I was in high school, and Dad introduced us, and we've been really good friends ever since. In fact, I have a picture of Marcy and myself on Charlie O. the Mule on my website.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Marcy is
then that
older
leads to the next question. How did the mule come to be in Charlie's world? And what's your first memory? Was it like a pet or just a farm animal?
Yes. It was destined to be in our petting zoo at the Kansas City Stadium. And we had a petting zoo where you could look down and watch the games. Say a family has a child that is restless. That family could go up, sit at a picnic table, see the pets, go and feed them, and watch the game. So the governor of Missouri gave us a mule in late '64. And we were I remember hearing discussions about having a new mascot, but that wasn't the mascot. But then all of a sudden the idea was, hey, here's our new mascot. Why not? And Dad started showing me movies of Francis the Talking Mule.
I remember Francis. Remember Jim O'Connor, I think his name was something.
Yeah, and it was wasn't that what led to Mr. Ed, the sitcom on TV?
Probably did.
That's all. Dad
teaching
wanted...
the animal to talk was the big problem.
That's right, those voice lessons.
I wonder if Earl Robinson had anything to do with that. But but I remember hearing that Ricky took, Earl taught speech. That's what his class was. So I remember hearing that Ricky met with Earl to go over how he should project certain words he should say. I actually like it when people just say what's in his heart, just how. But on the other hand, I can understand the fear of getting up there and just staring and not being able to say. Oh, right. And this is, the Hall of Fame. One
yes.
chance
wow. I was listening. Except I remember hearing that Ricky thanked that donkey, and my whole life I was taught there's such a big difference between a mule and a donkey, and it's a mule.
Oh.
And that mule was huge. It was, if you think of an Arabian horse, that's what it was like. It was really tall.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought it was just a conventional size mule. Charlie went for the big.
Well, the governor did. This is from the governor of Missouri, which is known as a state that really likes mules. So
where was the mule kept during the week?
My goodness! In Kansas City, it was kept at Benjamin Stables, which I spent a lot of my time out after school at Benjamin Stables. Howard Benjamin, the owner, became really good friends with Dad, and our parents socialized, and they each had an only child. There was me, and then the Benjamins had Benny Benjamin, and they had Howard. His grandfather homesteaded about a quarter of Kansas City. So all that land belonged to Howard, but Howard chose to keep it as rural as possible, and people boarded horses there. They had little paths you could walk, you could take your horse on, and you could feel like you were in the middle of nowhere. Oh, and there were spots. You
were coming of age in Kansas City.
I was still little. I have a picture where I broke my arm, and I'm in the newspaper, being taken in the hospital parking lot, and my arm is in a cast, and my pony is being brought to me to apologize in Charlie O's air-conditioned trailer.
And you still have the picture.
I do. I still have the picture. It's
very cool.
That was a
very
PR.
Cool.
That's PR. But I remember it happened at Howard Benjamin's residence. They were getting ready. My parents were there to have dinner, and Howard had my pony brought up to keep me busy. So I fell and broke my arm. But
right.
So that was the thing in the that was what made the paper, was the fact that shouldn't have happened. I don't know if it brushed up, if the pony brushed up against a thorn or what. But yes, Dad, I remember Howard had placed little sheds on his property, and he would tell me that that's where Jesse James used to hide out. So it was a very Western area, atmosphere.
Right. What's the main difference between the people in Kansas City and the people in Oakland, California?
Well, what I noticed it the day after I was here, I wanted to see Charlie O. So Dad had found a place to board Charlie O because it was in Oakland, the Oakland Hills, and it was called Skyline Ranch. And when Dad took me there, I immediately sensed a difference between the Benjamin Stables and Skyline Ranch. Skyline Ranch had people immaculate riding these horses that were immaculate, and they had these boots on, and it's called English riding. Whereas in Kansas City it was Western. The men were bow-legged who rode the horses, took care of the horses. That was
in Oakland, you mean?
In Oakland it was English, yes. In Kansas City.
Oh, in Oakland it was English.
Oh my gosh, yes. So that was a big difference. I had never seen English writing. And I always pictured people who rode horses with boots and, not too clean because you don't care. But the
Old West, that type of thing.
Yes, the men had tobacco on the side of the cheek. And out here, everything was just perfect. The clothes, perfect. The horses were groomed. The tails were braided. My gosh. So I noticed that right away. And I even asked Dad, are you sure this is where Charlie O is? And apparently when Dad broached the subject of boarding Charlie O, he said the stable didn't seem too excited at first because they didn't have a mule. But when they realized what the mule signified, then they were okay with it. So that's where
get a little publicity and what have you. And,
oh, yes.
Excuse my ignorance, is a mule that much different to take care of than a horse?
No, it's the same. I mean, the same size, so it needs the same stall.
Right. Are they more gentle are they smarter, more gentle, more stubborn as a mule? That kind
I believe they're more gentle because I would never get on a really tall horse, but I would get on Charlie O. He tripped, but that had to do with his shoes. He fell in Francesco's restaurant when we were out here. I heard all about that, but on the other hand, that has to do with the floor because we took him so many places and that didn't happen.
Francesco's is on Hagenberger. If you're out in Oakland, what a terrific restaurant!
Is it still there?
I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. I'm stuck in Alameda, the little island town.
Oh, that beautiful island. That's paradise.
Alameda's terrific. You'll agree on that. My new hometown.
In fact, Dad, several of Dad's teacher friends also were at College of Alameda.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
I walk by there on a regular basis. And my son went there for a little while.
I did too. Right after high school, I started there just to start the units going. And Dad, because several of the teachers would go from Laney to College of Alameda back and forth.
Right.
Colleges.
If you haven't been to Alameda in a while, things are changing. It used to be a very well-kept secret in the Bay Area, price-wise and everything else. And now the prices of homes have gone up appreciably. It's becoming like the rest of California, an overpriced place. No matter what the benefits of living in the Bay Area, the price of housing and taxes and it's incredible. I mean,
there isn't any land.
It's for the very rich, and the middle class in California are being forced out. They're being forced to move way out into the suburbs, where not only they set themselves up for a long commute, but they set themselves up for living in a pretty radically conservative place. The Bay Area is liberal to a certain extent in the big cities, but if you get out into the sticks, you get some conservative folks that
I've heard about
today's day and age with the neo-Nazis and the craziness. You're out in Contra Costa.
Oh no, I'm actually on the border. I'm Dublin, but really close to the border of Contra Costa County. I drive about a mile and I'm there.
Do you notice a difference between the people in Oakland and the people in the sticks? As do I do, but I wonder if you pick up on it.
I really don't here, but it seems like it seems like we're really not the true suburbs anymore because maybe, I don't know if Bart's done that, but to me when I think of suburbs, I think of Modesto, Ceres, Patterson.
Right.
There must be another name for that because we are the suburbs, but when you
the name is Michigas. I'll tell you, people commute.
That's different. Yeah.
That's the word for you. You get advantages of co-hosting with Ralphie Boy.
Yeah. Love it. I love these.
You can teach me some Irish, some Gaelic, and I'll teach you some Yiddish.
Okay. It's a deal.
But
I'll tell you call that?
What do I call Michigas?
Michigas. So that's on the other side of the Altamont.
Yeah, you keep driving down 680 to Michigas, and you make a right to Fadreikt. And you get there. It takes a while. Yeah. But it takes some driving, but you get there. My point is, people are commuting, have set themselves up for commutes that go like an hour and a half each way. You go out to Tracy in the traffic, and from the Bay Area, prices are a little less expensive, but your working day is not only your 8 hours, but it's the 3 hours of commute, the 3 hours of commute back, or the hour and a half of commute back. That's 3 hours, talking 11 hours. And as we all know, for any job, there's an hour of preparation, and there's an hour of come down. Yes. So basically, you're setting yourself up for 8 hours of work, 3 hours of commute, that's 11, and 2 hours of preparation and come down. That's 13 hours out of the 24 hours a day that one devotes to work. And prices of homes aren't that cheap anymore out there. So that's tending to make our society angry. There's a lot of rage on the roads. They call it road rage. And we take it out on each other, and it's a crazy world. Nancy. It was a lot more simpler in Kansas City, I'm betting, right?
Yes. Yes. Have you been to Kansas City?
Boy, have I been to? I've been to the Midwest. I've probably been through one of the Kansas cities on the train at one time or another.
Yes, they're known for their big train station,
and there are numerous Kansas cities.
Kansas?
The Midwest is. One is Missouri. One is
Kansas.
What's the other one?
Kansas City, Kansas.
Kansas itself, right?
And and one road actually separates it, so you may not know when you're in one state or the other. But it's. But when I was little, we knew, because if I was bored and I wanted a toy, Dad would do what he could to get one. This sounds terrible, but he did this. He did this, and they had the blue laws. So in where I forget what state it was, but we would have to drive over into the other state to buy a toy. They wouldn't sell goods on Sundays.
Whoa, let alone liquor. They would not sell.
That's right.
You talk about conservative.
Yes.
Did you get to meet Amish? Did you know Amish people at all? They kind of fascinate.
No, aren't they in Pennsylvania?
Okay. Yes, that's probably it.
I was probably.
Everything fascinates me when you don't know the difference between. Doesn't know the difference between Kansas City and Pennsylvania.
Well,
you're fascinated by everything.
Well, Morgan, I was one thing I love about the Kansas City airport. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and now this is what I heard, is that it's the headquarters for Con Air. So that is supposed to be the safest airport in the country because of how it's monitored. And
they're throwing some bucks into maintenance these days. Things are changing.
Well, the government. This is where prisoners are. This is where they monitor all prisoners that are flown. So if you think about it, Oh, yes, that's Conair headquarters. So when we flew in, we were out in the middle of nowhere, but the airport is so easy to maneuver. You fly in.
That's like a little play on word, Con Air, and they're taking care of convicts and what have you. That
yes,
divine intervention for that one. They
yes,
didn't go into business thinking they're going to be taking care of convicts.
It turns out to be very safe because of that. So
okay, I get it.
Yes,
I get it.
Because that was a backdoor type of thing. So, yes, that airport is the easiest. You get off your plane and you see right outside. It's like a big circle.
Right. What's the industry? Why, if you were, why would you travel to Kansas City? Just not besides friends and family. What's budding in Kansas City in terms of industry?
A lot of headquarters back there. Morgan was surprised. Hallmark is headquartered back there. H&R Block is headquartered back there. Mr. H, Mr. R. Really?
And Mr. Block, of course.
And there is a jewelry store. It was in the mall, Feldspar, I think. One of those is headquartered back there. You drive around, you see these buildings, all these names.
Nice.
It is.
Nice. Do you miss it? Would you retire there?
I would always live there. I would always live there. It's clean. It is so clean. I was showing, Morgan was on the Dublin Planning Commission for 10 years. So I like to rib him when we go places. And I'll ask, would this be allowed? I mean, is this something Dublin should do? I do. I like to tease him because I'm always pointing out spots that I think should be taken care of here.
Right.
And I don't think he was strict enough. But anyway. So
okay.
Kansas City has huge standards. But Alameda. Yeah. Alameda is, I think that's a well-run city.
Oh, yeah. Really well-run. We have Target now.
You
which
do?
Gives, you get to take that for a way. It's tucked out in back of Alameda College. And,
it is. That's the name.
And we have nail shops.
Nails? What did they do?
We have nail shops on every corner in Alameda. Park Street, Webster Street, a lot of nail shops. I don't know what to say.
Did they take the place of tattoo parlors, though? When the Navy
they still have a few of those, but for the most part, it's become very, very upscale, or they think they're upscale. We're faced in California with the legalization of cannabis, both
where can you grow it
medically and recreationally now. It's been approved in California for medical purposes many years ago. I'm going to ask you. This whole dynasty was in the 70s and what have you. How did marijuana come in? Was there any marijuana talk, anything to do with marijuana going on in the Finley days?
Great question. I will say this: the whole time I've been in that Coliseum, I think I have smelled whiffs of it coming from places, but I don't know. I really don't know, but.
You don't know what it smells like, in other words.
No, I smelled it in school. If I walked by, like outside, people would say that such and such. But on the other hand, I've been told that can be something else. Like maybe beer smells like it at times. I don't know. But you know what I heard my dad and Uncle Charlie said? They called everything illegal dope. And I was really confused by that. And I used to ask friends, what is dope? I asked them, what do you mean by dope? And they said, it's illegal. It's stuff that people shouldn't be using. But I never knew what dope was. And my friends would speculate, well, it's probably marijuana, weed they called it. Or they said pills. But no one could tell me. So I just thought dope, whatever it was very bad, and I should make sure to stay away from it.
Oh, Nancy, I wholeheartedly agree, and that means more for me.
But whatever it is, I mean, what does it what does it look like? And so they were always, he's just doing that dope, you know, if they thought someone might not be good to be around, but I never really knew what it was. Now, Dad used psychology with me. If a friend smoked cigarettes, Dad would say, "Oh, I know someone who smoked and he found out he had a brain tumor and just had 6 months to live." Dad knew if I heard that, I wouldn't do it. And
Right.
He was right.
Reverse psychology. That works very well.
He didn't have to say, "I better not ever catch you doing that." He would say something like that, knowing that
bad examples, or examples of what can happen. Not bad examples, but what could happen turns out bad for whatever it is. But I was concerned, was there ever anything with the players or rumors or anything? I'm just curious about the times is all. It's not right or wrong.
I never heard anything like that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I would have heard that. I do know we watched everything they took. I used to hear Dad get on the phone with the team doctor about a player having to take an antibiotic. I mean, there was and the players only saw the team doctors, so it was a big deal. Antibiotic, what's wrong with him? You know, so yes, we really monitored everything they took tightly. I could tell that. Oh, and then there was the team dentist, Dr. Russo. He was funny. He would, when he was working on my teeth, he would say, "Let me try to remember what the book said." I mean, stuff like that. He was so funny.
It just put you at ease.
He lived in Alameda, Harbor Bay Isle, as a lifelong bachelor. And he would walk every morning with Dad in the 80s. They became good friends.
Yeah. Tell me about, we briefly touched upon last week your dad's role in the conversion when the team was sold to the Haas's.
Oh, yeah.
How long was he on, I guess, on the payroll after the sale was consummated?
Until 84.
Wow.
Yes, Dad said he was retired. He told the Haas family he thought he would retire full time in 84, and I remember a retirement party for him. I still have the book of people who attended, and I see I'm going through and I see a woman write her phone number in there, and she puts, "Carl, call me anytime." It's sort of flirty. She writes little, X's and O's next to her name.
Yeah. Well, that was Sister Mary.
Women did that with Dad.
It wasn't Sister Mary. It was different promiscuous woman.
Yes. And then he was
yes.
Yes. And then he was part-time. I found the All-Star invitation Dad attended in Oakland. It was 1987. And can you believe Oakland? That must have been big.
Well, Nancy, the journalist who helped you, the female, I'd be very interested to get her on the show. Is she still with us?
Oh, she would. Marcy would love that. Marcy is in Danville. I'm seeing her tonight at her animal
Would
care.
you reach out to her and ask her if she would call the show next week at this time?
I sure will. I'll arrange that with her tonight.
Beautiful. And you can just send me a little message, the spelling of her name and what have you. So
and her son, her only son, by the way, Michael, his godmother was Sally Stanford, the mayor of Sausalito. Do you remember her?
I do, indeed. She was very famous. I think she was a hooker, if I'm not mistaken.
She ran a hooker house.
She ran a hooker house, not herself, God forbid.
That's
but,
right. She was a
she's
good
only a
businesswoman.
philosopher.
Good businesswoman.
We have a wonderful mayor in Alameda.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Trish. Nancy isn't a Trish, but Trish Spencer, and she is a terrific woman, a dear friend, and has been on the show. And she's very progressive, a progressive mayor. Yes, Sausalito is, for those not in the Bay Area, it's kind of a boating town, like a resort town, a touristy town.
North of San Francisco, right north of it's Golden Gate. You get off. Isn't it one of the first cities you see?
Going north, you go towards Highway 1, Chipperon, and what a beautiful place to live.
When I came out
we're
here,
just blessed. And the nice part is you can drive 20 miles, and depending on what temperature you're looking for, what temperature you want, what temperature you're escaping, summer, winter, you can have a change of temperature of 35 degrees by driving 10 miles.
Oh, that's right. I
in
remember
different directions.
And then we have mountains. Yes, I remember that.
It's good. It's a good place to live.
Well, it's near Mill
Valley.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Mill Valley, too. Got to talk a little baseball. I want to talk. I have a list of, let me bring it up.
You reminded me we had a lot of Marin County fans who came to the Coliseum. A lot.
That's true. It's right across that bridge, the San Rafael Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
People look at Oakland as some sort of secondary market, this, that, and the other thing. Mm-hmm. Wait and see. Once we get this stadium, this is going to be one of the greatest franchises going. Mm-hmm. Because you've got a lot to draw from. They draw from Alameda County, Contra Costa County, as you say, Marin.
Marin?
And out further, way out.
The Gold Country?
Yes.
Fresno? Oh, Fresno. I remember those I remember helping to handle tickets and then the playoff and World Series. And I was always amazed at how far people drove. Chico.
Now, Nancy, you made calls to season ticket holders, potential season ticket holders,
and
renewals and what have you.
Yes.
Did they realize? Did you make the call under Nancy Jones? Hi, this is Nancy Jones, or did you call and say, I'm Nancy Finley?
I would say this is just Nancy. If they needed my full name, I would give it. But
okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to converse and say and tell them who you were and just chat A's baseball with an insider? How about that?
I was so used to calling, I didn't know if anyone thought anything about it. A few people might ask, "Oh, Finley, are you part of the Finley family?" And that would be it. They would seem impressed a little bit, but but I was so used to it.
As well, they should have, because for all the circus-like atmosphere, if you will.
And there was a circus. Remember that circus Barnum and Bailey parked out in the stadium parking lot on every August. Okay, we'll go there later, but I got to water elephants.
Tell it. They literally had the circus out. This is in Oakland, right?
Well, at the arena every August. So I always walked around. If I didn't have it before cell phones, I would walk around sometimes for exercise, and the people worked for B&B Circus just asked me if I wanted to do some chores for them, and they let me water the elephants. And I remember it was really fun because I got to see where they lived, what they were doing before the show, and
were the elephants treated well? I mean, I know there's been a big change in Barnum and Bailey recently. They don't have elephants. They've put all the elephants out to pasture.
They seem happy.
There were accusations that, it was just tough for them in a circus-like atmosphere.
Well, I'll
Did
tell
you see any of that?
Charlie O was happy. I wonder what would happen now that he was spoiled. But those, the elephants seemed very, very happy, and they were fed a lot.
Right.
They were fed a lot. And elephants look like they're smiling all the time anyway, but these elephants smiled.
Okay. Hey, let's get back to why you should be proud from a baseball sense to be a Finley offspring. There's millions of reasons. But Charlie Finley put together a baseball team, put together the bulk of it when he was still in Kansas City. And I'm going to name you some of the names of the 67 Kansas City team the year before they moved to Oakland. And one can see, and you'll be reminded of the fact that the bulk of the solid ball players, not really the bulk, but a number of them played early on. They were just breaking in Kansas City. Bert Campaneris was the regular shortstop, and Rick Monday was the regular center fielder. Now, the reserves among those who went on to star in that dynasty, in that 5-year dynasty period where they won 5 divisions in a row, and they won, in the middle of it, they won 3 world championships in a row. Now, is that the greatest dynasty I've ever seen in my life? No, I grew up in New York in the 50s, and they had 2 dynasties, and the Yankees actually won 5 world championships.
That was consecutive, wasn't it?
Consecutive, from 49 to 53. That was incredible. But that aside, the Oakland dynasty was very underrated, and that's the one thing we're going to try to over these weeks is try to bring out just how terrific the team was, just how solid. And today I just want to go over the guys that were already playing, that were up with Kansas City and played the year before they moved out here. I mentioned.
I like doing this. Go ahead, start with those names.
Yeah, Campy. We talked about Campy last week. A mutual friend. He was a very close friend of the former spring training team doctor with the A's, my lifelong friend from Kittatinny Camp, and I miss him literally every day of my life, the late Dr. Craig Pearson. And he and Campy would come up to Oakland to visit, and they'd fish up here, and I got to drive Campy around in the back of Diane's yellow car, which was...
Where did they fish?
Yeah, that was, and he didn't speak much English, to be honest.
I know.
But his heart was so beautiful. It is so beautiful, and that we communicate without speaking. There's music and food, and but his heart is terrific, and
it's still that way, or more so.
Has to be.
Yes, and his wife is. Yes.
So there was Campy. Okay, Rick Monday was a regular. Dick Green played a lot of ball. He wasn't the regular second baseman that year, but he played a lot. Sal Bando, the captain, was up in 67. Reggie Jackson was up. We talked about Theodore. Teddy Kubiak was up. Dave Duncan was up. All these names that are so... Joe Rudy came up in 67. There was a fellow that Herb Washington was the designated runner. But before that, the A's had a fella by the name of Alan Lewis, who was very fast. He didn't play many games. He was a pinch runner as well. He did come to bat occasionally.
Was he in 67?
Washington in He was up there in '67. Alan Lewis came up with Kansas City. Played in Oakland a little later. I'm just looking over a roster of some of the guys that made a difference. Diego Segui, Wes Stock was
our
coach.
Yes. Yes.
He finished his pitching career in Kansas City, and again went on to coach with them many, many years. Was a minor league instructor and in charge of player development in the minors for a long time. Iconic guy. We didn't mention the pitching staff. These are the guys that came over.
Vida, right?
Catfish Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Nash. Chuck Dobson, who lived out in San Ramon when he came out here. He was a very, very solid pitcher. Blue Moon Odom. Then there was Lou Krause. I don't know if you remember the legend, Nancy, of Lou Krause.
I saw Lou.
He was a rookie pitcher.
He was friends with Hawk Harrelson. I remember hearing that. They were good friends.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
And Paul Lindblad, Diego Segui again. Paul Lindblad.
No, Knowles,
Lindblad was instrumental in the bullpen when they won. And as I look at this thing, it's really interesting. I see a guy played who pitched in Kansas City his last year. Well, it was Jack Sanford, who's a former Giant, whose giant jacket, I have hanging up in my closet. My closet, thanks to Tony D'Angelo, my godfather of the show. I have a Jack Sanford jacket, not known for being an A, but as I look at this thing, he pitched a game or two with the A's at the end of his career. So baseball's terrific. Baseball's terrific.
It is.
What do you remember the most about Lou Krause, besides him being there was a guy who came up with incredible potential just out of high school, and besides being Harrelson's friend, do you remember anything about him?
Well, when he came on board was the time I had to move back to Dallas with Mom because of my parents' divorce. But I heard a lot. He was in Oakland. He came out to Oakland. I'm trying to remember because there was a brawl at Jack London Square after hours, and it had to do with Lou and his friend. I'm trying to remember if that was Harrelson visiting with the other team. And they got in a fight with some men in black leather jackets. And they were really beat up, but they still played the next day. And I remember Dad talking about how when fireworks went off, I think it was Lou, he just flew on the ground thinking that those guys had shown up with guns. I remember Dad laughing about that, but we managed to calm the situation down without security. But it had to do with they were at a Jack London restaurant dancing, and they just actually bumped into the wrong person. This is how I heard it, and then but they still had to play the game the next day because it was looked at like, well, yeah, but you're hurt, but did you really have to get into that situation? So you need to go on. And
hey, Nancy, here's another thing I wanted to talk to you about: the history of the colorful uniforms. People that look back, they think, well, it was the Oakland A's that had the green and the gold and what have you originally.
Yeah, no,
it was in Kansas City.
Yes, it started in Kansas City.
Yeah. How did that come about? How did Charlie get the idea? What were people's reaction away in conservative Kansas City?
Well, before the team colors happened, he spent $500,000 of his own money and had the stadium painted in aqua, gold, fuchsia, all these bright colors. That's when he had the petting zoo installed. He had these lights for the evening if it started to become dark so families could still be there. And he just thought he wanted to make sure that the team was different and people knew who they were. Sort of like when I wear my green Finley cowboy hat to games, people know where I am. So he started out with green and white. And then 6 months later, he thought, you know what, I'm adding yellow. He loved the color yellow. So people were appalled from what I hear. I heard a rumor that a man... Did
he call it yellow or gold? I don't think he referred to it as yellow.
Yeah, he didn't say yellow. He liked to use terms for it. Like back there, it was gold. Now, when we came out here, he changed it to California, like Gold Rush, you know, something.
Right.
But it was gold. I'm trying to remember what he used to describe it. He had Kelly green. And then we know when the white shoes came along, we know he said wedding gown, white, and anything he could use to describe the color, he would. And if we've all painted a room, we know there are many color shades of white. So he did. He loved those colors, and I've heard that one player on another team refused to play in the All-Star because one of our players was there, and the colored uniform. That's
craziness. Yeah.
That tells you how some people looked at it like, oh, my gosh, how could he do that? Now, I have heard that there's a rule in baseball where you have to get permission a year in advance to change anything or to have your events approved. And I'm thinking, was that in effect with us? Because we had a lot of spontaneity. I'm wondering if maybe that was created because of us.
Yeah, they probably wanted to edit what these teams were going to do. It's become a very corporate scene, and that's why I enjoy so much talking about your era, because it wasn't corporate; it was mom and pop, and
so we could have surprises.
Right.
We did have surprises.
Charlie O was compared to Bill Veeck. The famous Beck is in Rec entrepreneur.
He had a lot of respect for Bill.
Yeah, did they get to meet? Did they share ideas?
They shared. I believe they were in the same Chicago building at one time when Charlie had his insurance.
Huh. That is very interesting. So they probably Charlie probably learned a little from Bill Veeck, especially about spontaneity. The famous story of Eddie Goodell when Bill Veeck owned the St. Louis Browns. The little person, they used to call him a midget. Now they call him a little person, and he came up to pinch hit and. It was incredibly spontaneous.
And that wasn't approved a year in advance.
Yeah, it wasn't. He signed a contract. They sent in the contract. They had it all approved, but they didn't know he was a midget. And things were a lot.
How was he as a player?
Looser. Yeah.
Was he good? Was he a good player?
Oh, he only came up. No, he wasn't. They told him. Bill Veeck said that he was just a tiny little guy, and he had a little bat, and he said, we want you to go up and walk. You're just going to walk. And they threatened him, Bill Veeck did, or he did. They said, if you swing the bat at any ball, we have somebody trained, we're going to shoot you. We have a gun. That's exactly the truth. He went up there and did not swing the bat. He had 4 pitches. You couldn't pitch to him. the pitcher was a fellow by the name of Bob Sugar Kane, and they walked him, and then they pinch ran for him, and that was it, and that was historic.
I have to give it to Beck. Beck made sure he remembered not to.
Right, that's right. Do not swing the bat because he wanted to be a hero.
Oh my! That's great. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember I heard Beck is the one who told Charlie that there was a team that was going to go up for auction, and that was Kansas City. He's the one. Yeah.
Whoa!
He's the one.
So that's a Bill Veck connect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
the bibliography of the show is Finley Ball. It is how two outsiders turned Oakland A's into a dynasty and changed the game forever.
They sure did.
So now we're going to have to add another book to it. It is called Veck as in Wreck.
I have that book.
By a fellow by the name of Lynn. I think it was Ed Lynn.
Dad had that book. I have Dad's book. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there was another book about written with Veck by Bill Lynn. After that, I can't think of the name of that. Equally as entertaining and as informative about inside baseball. So we aims to teach.
And Marcy will have really good stories to tell when she's on the show. She'll have very good stories. She went to the Contra Costa Times after the Tribune, and her column was just simply called Marcy. That's how well known she was.
Beautiful. I can't wait to meet her on the air next week. And as for you, young lady, you're a real delight, and I hope we can keep this going for a long time. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for having me.
Give my best to Morgan and everybody out there. Keep on keeping on. We'll be back next week. We intend to keep the memory of the Finley era alive. We also intend to keep the listening audio kind of informed about what's going on with the current A's. Rajay Davis was just dealt. I can't think of. I think it was Boston because Boston had an injury problem, and so the team is pretty well depleted from what it was at the beginning of the year. It's a rebuilding year. Once the official announcement of the stadium is made, things are going to change financially. There's going to be an infusion of money. They're going to build a team for the stadium, and the successful days of the Oakland franchise will continue. Till then, Nancy, we'll see you next week. Everybody out there, keep on keeping on, and we'll be back. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.